We are in an era of a go-to-market skills crisis where reps and sellers are drowning in technology, but starving for skills and skill capacity. And skill capacity is dangerously low across the profession. The bar for what we need is also getting higher. When the complexity of your go-to-market motion goes from here to here, but your skill capacity stays the same, you've got this deficit that starts to look like this. Skill capacity is what to do, why to do it, and how to do it so that you're building judgment. Assuming you have the basics of your go-to-market strategy down, skill capacity and increasing that is now like a top 3 lever for you to pull as a chief revenue officer. I think the right way to do it is to introduce a skill transformation loop into how you transform your sales team. So in other words, is training a process or an event?
How's Newport Beach?
It doesn't suck.
No.
It's pretty good. I took my kids walked across the street to the beach at the end of the workday a couple nights ago. I'm going to play pickleball in Laguna tonight against my son. It's pretty fun.
You son of a gun.
Yeah, Craig. Well, Craig doesn't live here, but Craig is currently, and so am I, currently still in Foster City.
Yeah. I'll probably be making a trip back in the next few weeks because my son really wants to go because he's still got such a good group of friends out in Foster City.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, nothing has changed.
Tell him to get Except for there's no fireworks. They didn't do the fireworks show on the 4th of July.
Well, that's because they're redoing the youth center, the teen center, or whatever they call it.
Gotcha. Wait, Foster's? Did they do a drone show or anything? Or
no shows of any kind. No fun here.
Oh,
can't smoke cigs and no fireworks.
Damn it! God, dang it!
No ripping darts. No blowing the finger off. From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
So, how many times has Orlob been on?
This is number 3, No.
Well, I guess in total, I guess you would say 3.
Yeah, man. We really appreciate you're the best guest, dude. Sorry everyone else that we've said you're the best guest, but you're up there.
In your face, Albro.
Oh man,
I appreciate it.
Pissed. He's gonna be pissed. He's at 8 though, right? Or
he's at a bunch.
At 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just realized, like, hey man, like when we have a good guest who's willing to share, there's no, like, we don't need to always mix it up. We got to bring back the stalwarts, and you're one of them. All right, so let's start. Chris Orlob, multi-episode guest, and like literally one of the greatest guys to listen to of all time. By the way, Matt, we did a workshop with him. Like, people were going nuts. It was awesome for the portfolio.
Yeah, this is my surprise face.
Well, dude, I mean, you never respond to Mark's emails. So
I'm gonna.
All right. So let's start with this. So, Chris, let's kick this show off with a bang. Tell us, give us a story, man. Something, selling story. Let's go.
Do you want entertaining or do you want instructive?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Entertaining.
Well, entertaining.
Always
entertaining.
Because I've got a somewhat entertaining one, but it's not exactly instructive.
That's okay.
I guess it might be
what not to do.
Yeah, it's that kind of instructive.
Those are the best.
So I really hope I don't get in trouble for sharing this story, but
you'll be fine.
Here we go. So we had a new customer join us in June over here at pclub, and it was a good size deal. I'm not going to tell you guys exactly, but it was like close to a 6-figure deal. And I had a little bit of heartburn over this deal because my AE had forecasted it like with a high degree of certainty in May. And May came and went, and there were a few blocking and tackling errors that we had made, so it slipped into June. And we finally got through those blocking and tackling errors, and they introduced us to procurement, which, by the way, at this point, my face is on several dartboards in procurement offices across America. I'm certain of it. It is absolutely the case. But I joined the call with my AE, and this procurement guy who was a nice guy, but he's a procurement guy, and they're motivated to, their incentives are at odds with a salesperson's incentives. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, of course.
And so he comes in, he says, hey, we're basically ready to go forward with this. I just have one problem. I said, what's that? And he said, we got $40,000. Now, keep in mind what we were asking for was pretty close to 100,000. And I wasn't really in the mood to be like reckoned with that day. And I didn't say anything mean, but I was just kind of like, well, that's a significant gap compared to what we're asking. And so what do you do? What do you think we do about that? Because your sales team and your SVP of sales wants to move forward with this. And there are some significant problems in the business that we're solving for. I don't know if you're aware of those. And he goes, it's $40,000. And I said, then we can't do it. And I think he was surprised that I said, we can't do it. I think he thought I was going to like make some sort of concession. And I, to his point, I don't think I phrased it in the nicest way. I probably could have been slightly more socially intelligent or emotionally intelligent or whatever. But we ended the call and I was like, okay, I guess we're not doing a deal. And so I shot an email to the SVP of sales, and he called me shortly after, and he was like, hey, heard you were pretty mean to the procurement guy. Ooh. And I was like, it was actually like a parent-child situation where, like, in kind of a nice way, I was like, no, he was mean to me.
No way. Thank you. Yes.
And this is kind of how the conversation went. And I was like, I'll make up a name. We'll say his name was Drew, right? The SVP of sales. I was like, Drew, I'm only trying to defend what I think is fair, right? Like, I'm not going to drop my price down that. And anyways, like, it ended up getting to the point where he's like, I want you to write an apology email to my procurement guy. And I told him, I'm happening? Like, and I was like, are we going to be able to move forward if I do this? And he was like, yes, I'm the decision maker. I'm the budget holder. And then I was like, okay, are we going to be able to move forward if I do this at the price that I think is fair?
Yeah.
And he was like, yes. So I wrote an apology letter to the procurement guy, and it was signed within a couple days. That's my latest story when it comes to selling. So not crazy, but
no, I love it.
I've never been put in timeout before, and it was humbling.
Dude, he was mean to me is an incredible line.
I mean, that's not what I said, but
is that not in the best practices?
Yeah, he was the objection handling.
Okay, you know what? I've been dying because now that I got you guys, I'm gonna get your guys' reaction on how I played this, and then you guys, if you have any others. Have I told you the bloody eyeball story?
Yes.
Matt? No? Oh, I have. Oh, well.
I have thoughts.
So we had a big sales call on a Monday. It was like, remember the days where we'd have to be in the room with like 10 people, boardroom, to like get the deal done and do your presentation and all that stuff. But I had gone to Reno with my brother, who I hadn't seen in a long time.
Paul.
And yeah. And I hadn't drank enough water is my excuse, but like I lost, not my money, my whatever I had eaten that day, let's just say all over the hotel room. I mean, I could not stop throwing up for like 14 hours, and I burst vessels in my eyeball to the point where it was totally red. Mm-hmm. And so demonic. And so I'm like, oh my God. Actually, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about it. We were driving home, and my brother goes, bro, what the hell? And I'm just like, what? And I look at him like, oh my God, jeez. And I didn't even look at my schedule the next day. I had no idea. But then I wake up the next morning getting ready to go, and I'm like, oh my God, I got this huge sales call. So I get in there, there's 10 people in the room, and I start to present, and everyone I could see, they're like going, oh God, what is going on, right? And so I stop presenting, and I just go, okay, guys, let's just get the elephant in the room out on the table. I have a bloody eyeball. And the woman, who's amazing, still a friend to this day, goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." I don't even feel it. I was sick this weekend, and I burst blood vessels in my eye. And I mean, literally, I just see people just go, phew, like they're not doing it outwardly, but they're relieved because they were sitting there. I was presenting like 15 minutes and they just couldn't take it anymore, like the bloody eyeball. So I'll give you the outcome. The outcome is we won the deal. The point I normally make on that is like, we called it the elephant in the room play, which is like, if something is patently obvious, you can't hide it. You just got to get it out on the table and bring it out on the table. So, bloody eyeball story. Did I play that correctly? Not just because I got the deal, because I think the deal was pretty. This is sort of a perfunctory meeting. But if you have a bloody eyeball, did I do the right thing, Chris?
I think so, but you also could have like really played the roll up if you wanted to and just like come across as the crazy person. You may have not closed the deal, but I wonder what would have happened if you, like kind of intentionally twitched every now and then or something like that.
Or if you said,
hey, I closed the deal out of fear. They're like, I think if we don't sign this thing, we might all be in trouble. So
real FOMO, like the world's coming to an end, right?
You could have maybe you could have said, "Hey guys, I know this scheduled for 90 minutes. I'm gonna have to cut it a little short. I've got a meeting with a priest after this."
Those are all great plays. Yeah, I mean, but basically, you guys are suggesting like there's this play here where like not just a bloody eyeball, but potentially like just show up to a sales call in like a Viking costume, or I could have taken the bloody eyeball, walked in like a Walking Dead zombie, and just like, guys, the end of the world's coming. I like this.
Yeah, the end is nigh. And
I've been dying to ask Chris's take on my bloody eyeball story. He threw me for a loop, saying go with it. That would have been amazing. Just sort of like, yeah, I love it. All right, cool. All right, so let's do this. Chris, what's happening in the world of sales? Like, give us 3 things, 1 thing, 2 things, whatever it is that we need to know that works in today's environment. And I can't wait for this, honestly.
Well, I have a pretty well-developed and further developing take on like what's going on in the world of sales right now. And the one-liner I would say is we are in an era of a go-to-market skills crisis where reps and sellers and customer-facing people are drowning in technology, but starving for skills and skill capacity. And skill capacity is dangerously low across the profession. And there's actually a few like trigger events that made all of this happen. The first one was like the ZERP era, right? 2021, 2022, budgets were loose. People were buying, money was cheap. And so sellers, your requirement for success was a decent product and a pulse. And so you didn't have to be all that good. And so that softness, they were then thrown into like a sudden jolt where the economy shifted overnight. Decisions are made way up here. They're scrutinized. Buying committees are bigger and more risk averse. And because we went through an era where we didn't need skill capacity was deteriorating all along and decaying all along. We just didn't notice it until the emperor's clothes were off because the shore dried up. Yeah. So that's one big thing is like compared to what we need, skill capacity, all-time low. The second thing that has exacerbated this is remote work. And I'm not even like an advocate against remote work. My company is 100% remote today, but I'm just calling it for what it is, where you have a younger generation of account executive typically, right? Like most AEs these days, particularly in SaaS and technology, like mid to late 20s, they entered the workforce in the ZERP economy. And now they're in this new economy that demands greater skill capacity, and yet they've all been remote. And so their ability to rapidly build their skills has been really, really limited. And then the third thing is just the abundance of AI and tooling and the ease of efficiency, in some cases at the expense of effectiveness. And so when you look across basically the entire go-to-market profession, compared to what's needed, there's a big deficit. of skill capacity. And I think a lot of sales leaders have been a little bit burned in fixing it because they have confused sales process with skill capacity. The solution has been process. And process is fine, but the definition of process is it stops at what to do. Here's what to do. Medic, MedPick, great examples, right? Go do this. Go get the metric, the economic buyer, the decision criteria, et cetera. Skill capacity, though, is a different thing than process. Skill capacity doesn't stop at what to do. Skill capacity is what to do, why to do it, and how to do it so that you're building judgment. And reps can have audible, ready, rich business conversations that create value for buyers and customers. So that kind of trend of like, we went from an era that was basically led by economic tailwinds to one that now demands significant skill capacity. And yet we're pretty low as a profession when it comes to that measurement, if that's what we want to call it. That's the biggest thing I've been noticing lately.
Okay, you know what's interesting? We just did some go-to-market benchmark research, and one thing we found was, especially when you're selling AI, that win rates are down. And I know everyone talked about from ZERP to now, but like now it's like we're in a new now. And what you're talking about, it really resonates with me because we have what you see is this uber competitive market, very confusing, and being able to sell it's an imperative here, unless you have like a killer PLG play. And so what you're saying is, well, we're going into this issue, this hyper competitive issue, without the skills in order to be successful. And the second thing that really resonated with me is like AI is there to enhance what you figured out is great. It's not going to come with great.
No.
It's like all the automation that you need I'm in favor of automation, but not until you figure out what great looks like and how you could support great. And that's the thing, is that the AI is not the solution to the skills gap. It could help maintain it, but like we have to determine from a uniquely human perspective what actually is going to work.
It actually just dramatically exposes the skill gap because it puts reps in a position where if they were very good, they could, they would be closing like crazy, but it puts them in more situations that expose the low skill capacity we've been talking about. And so to answer your question you posed earlier about like, what are you seeing? What are people focused on? What's working? I'm seeing skill capacity and the growth of skill capacity becoming one of the most important levers, and going from almost like a nice to have perk to somewhat existential, depending on how you look at it, right? Because if you look at the chief revenue officer, the commonality between all of them right now is they, for the last several years, have been asked to do more with less, right? We've exited the growth at all cost era. We've exited the era where my strategy for growing revenue is headcount driven. And now it's about getting more out of the team that I have. And so if revenue per rep is one of the biggest metrics of success in today's economy, well, what's your levers for driving that? It's not just skill capacity, right? It's tight ICP targeting, it's product market fit. But assuming you have like the basics of your go-to-market strategy down, skill capacity and increasing that is now like a top 3 lever for you to pull as a chief revenue officer. Now on the other side, so that's what makes it existential for the business. What makes it existential for the rep is we're in a tough job economy where sales leaders now, because they're trying to get more with less, are only hiring the best of the best, right? So if there's not an abundance of open headcount, they're going to pick the people who already have high skill capacity if they can. And so reps who have not taken their professional development seriously and haven't accelerated their own skill set in some way, they're more exposed to some of this AI disruption than people who are very good, regardless of whether the economy is good with them.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Matt? This was your original. This honestly, like, how long have we been doing the pod? 2 years?
17 years, I think.
We haven't gone back to Matt's thing has always been, I'm going to speak for you just because that was the thing. You used to always pound your fist on the table. I've made you move away because we've had all this AI stuff. But like you used to say, no, we have a selling problem, And like, right? That was like your thing but for a long time. It's like, dude, these guys,
got a lot of salespeople
they don't know how to
mad
sell.
at me. Got a lot of salespeople mad
Did
at me.
you?
But yeah, I did. But the thing is like, when I began my career in SaaS, it was at Marketo, and Bill and Patrick and those guys and Ray, they trained the shit out of our reps. It was constant. It was an hour of enablement every week, and that enablement, it included like, here's some new marketing programs, and here's new product releases, and here's how to talk about that. But it was like, here's how to run a first call. Here's how to improve the quality of the way you qualify. Here's pricing negotiation. Here's how to, tie, benefits to problems in the organization. Here's how to make a business case, right? Like, and those are things that I feel like, when I see modern sales organizations, like their enablement is always, here's this new product, or we're going to be at Dreamforce this week. And it's like, it's a lot of, that stuff is important. I'm not saying it's not, but it's
not
like,
without the basics. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fluffy compared to like, what do you do when you're in Chris's situation and your buyer has agreed to a deal and the procurement team comes in and says, I don't give a shit what, Drew said, we're only giving you 40 grand for this. Like I can tell you 99.9% of the sales reps that I've worked with over the course of the last couple of years would not know how to handle that situation. They'd get it solved because they'd take it to the CRO or they'd take it to our somebody would help them solve that problem. But on their feet, they'd be like, dude, I don't know what to do here.
Totally.
But how should we think about it, Chris? Like because you're saying, are you saying across the board we have a skill like or should we be thinking about it incrementally, or like what's where are the biggest areas where you see pain, or you know what I mean? Like I want to like turn this into. I think we agree, but like what should we do? Like how should we approach this?
Well, there are a few philosophies that I think are helpful to start moving the needle. First of all, I think it is pretty widespread. These days, I think it's pretty rare for me to come across a sales organization where the chief revenue officer feels like things are buttoned up from a skill capacity. Yeah. They totally exist. I'm not saying they're not there, but it's just rare, and it's very surprising when I have a conversation that goes that way. So one of the things to realize, this isn't actionable, but it'll give you the right mindset to action on it, is just making that first distinction between process and skill capacity, right? Are we directing our team on what to do, which is a good start, but if it stops there, it's not skill capacity. We've got to do the what, why, and how. The second mistake I make is we like to make a distinction between skill depth and skill breadth, right? So breadth, that's the multitude of skills that it takes to be successful in a given role. Right? So if you're a typical SaaS AE, that might be discovery, multi-threading, champion development, running great demos, running a closing motion, negotiating, et cetera. That's the breadth of skills you need. Depth is getting really good and really deep at one of those skills. And what I've found is sales organizations who are trying to build skill capacity, they do a common error that's driven by instant gratification, which is they try to tackle breadth before depth. They'll roll out a training program that touches on every topic. And as a result, they go a mile wide and an inch deep, and the reps have no lasting change. They were dabbled with multi-threading. They were dabbled with discovery, dabbled with demos, dabbled with this, that, and that. And they walk out of it with nothing that lasts. And what I found is the sales organizations that truly wake up a year from now, 2 years from now, to a completely different sales organization, a formidably excellent sales organization, they go deep before they go wide. They say, over the next 60 days or 90 days, we are going to master the discovery craft. Mm-hmm. And when we feel good about that, we're going to stack the next skill. multi-threading, whatever. And we're going to build this portfolio of mastered skills over time that stack on top of each other, instead of let's try to do a little bit of everything and hope it solves our problem entirely a quarter from now. Meanwhile, all they've done is motion without accomplishment.
Motion without accomplishment. I'm going to get that T-shirt made. I love that. So
that's the name of my next album.
Yeah, I totally actually that everything you just said 100% resonates with me. How do you figure out where to start though? Like, should you just go like left to right, like the first step in the sales process, or like what do you do?
I think it can be unique to the selling environment, right? What are the skills that matter for our unique selling environment? Where's the biggest gap? Of all of those, what do we think is going to be the biggest unlock? Right? Often that's going to be discovery, because discovery is what I would call a threshold skill, meaning you almost can't be good at the other skills until you're good at discovery.
Yeah.
That's not to undervalue the other skills. They're separate skills from discovery. They're very different. Being great at discovery is not going to make you automatically great at demos, for example. Yeah. But it's kind of impossible to be great at a demo or a business case or negotiating and defending price with value if you haven't first uncovered and developed everything you need to be able to do those things. So I think the answer is it depends. If I was to give a canned answer that's maybe applicable 60 or 70% of the time, it's probably discovery.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. I agree.
That was a setup. I mean, like, well, no, but like, I remember in the days when we used to do this, someone would say, well, we need help with negotiation. And it's like, we would go in there and discovery was the problem.
Totally.
They'd say, we're doing a terrible demo. It's like, well, discovery was the problem. You don't even know what to talk about in the demo, bro.
Yeah.
And so I get that. And so it totally resonates. What's discovery like? Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you this. From what I could tell from people buying stuff, and Matt tells me all the time, they don't do discovery at all or very well. So like, like they're jumping into tech demo out of the gate. And even if they ask us a question, I'm not even sure that it feels like it's sticky. Like it doesn't, it almost was like on a list of things to ask, but not really meaningful. So like, where are we with discovery in this world, and like, how should we approach it?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about, or just like preempt, is I'm not attacking sellers when I say everything I'm about to say or everything I have said. In fact,
100%,
like it's not their fault, right? Like most of them are mid to late 20s. Like I said, they've entered the workforce within the last 5 years. The economy fell out from under them, what like few generations have had to deal with, and nobody has guided them. Nobody's given them the playbook. So that's my preamble to everything I'm about to say. When I look at the status quo of discovery across the AE profession, there's usually a couple of thresholds. Number one is no discovery, right? It's just not being done. I actually don't think that's the most common one. Like I'll give some credit where credit's due. I don't think that's maybe 20% or something like that. I think the most common is the next two buckets. The next bucket being qualification, but not discovery, right? I'm going to ask the 3 or 4 questions that tell me whether this person's a technical fit for what I sell, rather than a business conversation. The next layer after that is a business conversation, but it's a checklist. I'm going to ask you 5 pain-oriented questions that feel generic and come across that way to the buyer. And those first 3 buckets, between no discovery, qualification but not discovery, and then a checklist-oriented discovery, I would estimate that's 80% of B2B sales organizations today. 20% are fluid and can have insightful, problem-solving oriented conversations that aren't just about extracting information for you as a seller, but are about having a conversation that helps your buyer solidify priorities and crystallize the problem and what have you.
Yeah.
Do you agreed with that, Matt?
I do. And one of the things that like I find when I'm being sold to nowadays, and not that much because I'm not really buying much, but is I'm being qualified more than anyone's doing any real discovery. Yeah. And what that means is it's like really easy for me as a buyer to walk away from the deal or just say like, now's not the right time. Let's check back in down the road, which is just me being nice, if they can't build a case for me of how they're going to solve my problem, I don't really want to buy it. I just don't want to buy it. Like, why would I be enthusiastic about it? Right. Like, I always think about like the pain of implementation and enablement, how many cycles I'm going to have to spend bringing something on board, adoption, transformation, enablement for anybody else in the organization who's going to use it or read the reports that it's spitting out, whatever. I'm just like, that's a hassle. If it's not solving a big problem for me and we can sort of build that case together, like, I just don't care. So like usually what I find is I'll hop on this call and they're like, oh, how many employees? Like roughly what's your revenue? You don't have to tell me exactly, but is it here? Is it here? Is it here? What are your plans for the next 6 months? It's not like, what metric are you trying to impact? How valuable is that to your organization? What does that mean for sales? What does that mean for sales now? What does it mean for sales 6 months from now or a year from now when it comes to renewal, enablement, upsell, like all that stuff? Like nobody is having that conversation with me. And that was the thing where like, because I started my career where I started my career, I just thought that was just a thing that everyone did, right? Like that was just a part of it. And I was just, the further I get away from Marketo, the further, I really value the sales leaders that we had in that organization because they were just so A+.
Mm-hmm.
What about, Chris, I want to ask you about that. We've had a couple guests on that have, I would say they're more AI centric, but they make a really key point as we think about discovery, which is one of the best things we could train these and young reps on is business acumen. Like, so that because there could be there's an interpretation issue often if they are going through their checklist. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that's a true statement that?
Well, it's not just true, but I think the need for it is expanding, just like the need for skill capacity is expanding. We're almost building a backlog of debt when it comes to both skill capacity and business acumen. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is we've already talked about the things that have set the stage, right? Like there was the ZERP era and the transition. There's the fact that we've all gone remote, that the workforce is younger for AEs typically. Those have set the stage. At the same time, though, companies are becoming more complex in their go-to-market motions, right? There's a need to become multi-product and become a platform. Competition is increasing in most categories, and that makes the go-to-market motion more complex. And when the complexity of your go-to-market motion, goes from here to here, but your business acumen and or skill capacity stays the same, you've got this deficit that starts to look like this.
Yeah.
So we didn't just get tossed into this world where it's like low skill capacity, low business acumen compared to what we need. The bar for what we need is also getting higher across many categories.
Yeah.
That is so true. I want to be more, I want to push back on you more. I know, but I can't. He always nails it. That's why I love this guy. I love your stuff. So I think that makes total sense. I'm kind of moving down the line in all the experiences I have. So, but like for discovery, we talked about this with you before. Are we back to, how long should we take for discovery and how do we get that? Because the buyer wants to see product more and more, I don't know if that's true, but early. I think that's true, right? That they want the demo is actually a byproduct of what the buyer wants typically. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about this before, but now we're in this, frankly, from the last time we talked to you, a lot has changed and it's gotten even more competitive and more confusing. So is it optimal to spend an hour just doing discovery, or is this a stupid way to be thinking about it? Like how deep do you want sellers to go?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you a concrete answer, but I'm going to start with the abstract, which is it depends on the buyer's stage in the buyer's journey, as well as the role that they're wanting or expecting from you as a seller. So I'll give you a couple of concrete examples. If they're coming inbound, they've solidified their problem, they know what they want, they have high urgency. You doing an hour of discovery before and insisting that you don't show the product, big mistake. Mm-hmm. You can do both though, right? You can play a game of tug of war where you can say something like, you know what you want more than most people I talk to, which is great. That tells me you probably have a well-defined problem. You've probably had meetings about this internally, and now you want to see a solution. And so how about we play a game of tug of war? How about I show you a couple things that map back to what I think you're going to want? And in exchange for me doing that, I ask you a couple questions about what's going on in your world, and we just play that loop throughout to increase our mutual understanding of each other. I've used that talk track 100 times. Approximately, guess how many times I've received pushback on that? 0.
Oh, I was going to go with a small number. Yeah, I mean, 0 is the smallest number. You got
never. They're like, that's the exact kind of conversation I want to have. Now, there's another type of buyer who demands to see the product, but is not far enough in the buyer's journey like the first person I mentioned. Right. Now, why do they demand to see the product, even though they're not really there yet? They're not in solution mode because they don't see the seller as a credible thought partner. Mm-hmm. They don't see a discovery conversation with the person I'm talking to as being productive. And so sometimes when people demand to see the product prematurely, it's not a sign that they're like at the bottom of the funnel. It's the sign that they are saying, without being explicit, I am going to diagnose my own issue. I don't trust you to diagnose my issue. So show me what you have so that I can mentally map back to my own problems. And you're just going to be there to inform me while I do this myself. Mm-hmm. Now, if you happen to be high business acumen, able to deliver insight, able to ask very good questions, those same buyers, they're surprisingly devoid of wanting to immediately see the product. Mm-hmm. They want to engage with a conversation with you because now they see you as credible. But that bar is up here now, and as a professional, we're about right here.
Interesting. All right, I love that. All right, can I keep going down the line, Matt?
You're allowed to, yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest issue? I'm saying it in a negative, but you always twist it in a positive because you're a good guy. The demo. We could ask Matt what he thinks the biggest issues are with demo. But where are we stubbing our toe today on the demo, and what should we do differently about it?
Matt, do you want to answer first, or do you want me to?
Yeah. So what I've seen change the most now is, in addition to getting into the product faster, I also get to some kind of SA, SC, SE, whatever we're calling the technical component of selling faster. And so it is not unusual for me to go to a first call, be maybe handed off by a BDR, although I usually request demos, so they're usually not there. Meet a salesperson who talks for 4.5 minutes, immediately be punted over to another person who then will take me through the demo. And then at the end, I get a salesperson who says, so what do you want to do next? Right? Just the worst of the worst types of sales execution is what I see on more often than not. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. I'm just saying it because it's my own anecdotal personal experience. I think that's the thing that bugs me, is that I'm on a call, there's 2 people on the call, there's another person who, they do the sort of lazy podcaster thing, which is someone's presenting and I'm talking or responding, and they're in the back going, mm-hmm. And I know it's fucking bullshit, right? I know that they're not hearing me for what I'm saying at all. They're oh, Foster City, yep. Oh, Marketo, huh? Yeah. I'm just what does that even mean? So
you mean, what does the mean?
Yeah, and I do that on this podcast, and I'm always God, you're a lazy podcaster. But that's the thing. What is that guy's value or that gal's value? What is their role on this call? And how have we gone from, sellers who could, predate BDRs, right? Sellers who could prospect, sellers who could sell, sellers who could demo, sellers who could negotiate. We're chunking out all the skill set. And I'm not saying that there's no place for sales architects or whatnot, because there are, but where does the modern AE begin and end? It feels like that's like their portion of the sales cycle is like really truncated at the beginning, and then it comes back on strong at the end. And as a buyer, I'm just like, who am I talking to today? I can't remember everybody's name.
I've seen that dynamic get even more accentuated with AI solutions.
Yes.
Because sellers, they can't explain how AI works. And so like, I've even seen many motions where SEs aren't pulled in, but product managers are pulled in.
Yes.
To like the first or second call. And that's just another example of like skill debt, right? Like knowledge for what you're selling has gone up dramatically. AI, every SaaS solution on the planet, it feels like at this point has some aspect of AI, and sellers don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so they pull in somebody else. The other thing I'll say about demos, I don't think this is particularly new. I think it's gotten worse for all the reasons we've already talked about in some of the trends. But most demos that I experience are point and click feature tours rather than earlier you shared XYZ problem was happening in your organization and it was creating these negative impacts and you were dealing with it because of X. Yeah. Here's how we address that. Right? That's simple, but like now the posture of a demo is about solving your problem rather than let me show you how all this works and how cool it is.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, so we don't have much time because I wrote down that I was going to ask you this. So if I stump you, that'll be great. Yeah. Okay, first of all,
we've gone to the game show portion of the podcast. I like this,
dude. Okay, Sam, do you mind capturing the sounds that Matt just made? It's a different than right?
Yes.
Yeah. So who's the best rep you've seen over the last 2 years, and what was so remarkable about that we can learn from them?
Over the last 2 years?
I don't know. I made up that time frame. That part of the question I could not figure out. But I just want an example. You're just one thing about you. I know you. You learn as much selling shit and training these folks as like anybody.
Yeah.
But I just like. I just want like this rep that you're like, I love this about you.
Yeah.
And like, what was that?
It's actually one of my reps. He's the top rep at pclub. He's an AE. And what makes him so great is he can sell category visions, not just transact products. Right. Mm-hmm. So like everything we've been talking about with like the transition from ZERP to this new era and skill capacity being dangerously low and all that kind of stuff. He has the acumen to be able to educate buyers on all of that during his sales calls when he's selling pclub. And it's really rare for an account executive to do, right? Like even great account executives, I'm going to diagnose your problem. I'm going to offer a solution, and that's that. Mm-hmm. Ryan Tibbetts, he changes how buyers think and feel about the problem at hand, kind of like in the way that we've been having this conversation today. And it's a very rare skill set I've seen across account executives.
That you went with the in-house. Do you want to tell us his name? We want to prop him up.
Jeez, he did.
Just did.
Ryan Tibbetts.
Oh, Tidbits? Yeah. Oh, I thought.
No, not Tidbits.
I love this guy. I want to meet Ryan. Oh, you did say his name?
His name's Ryan Tibbetts. Yeah. The other thing that's really great about him is sometimes as a sales leader, you coach and it's like you're talking to a wall. You're like, this rep is not going to implement anything I talked about. Ryan is like the definition of speed when it comes to acting on coaching. Anytime I'm on a call with him, we'll hang back for 15 minutes, not because I'm a nice person or I want to develop him, although I hope those are true, but because it is a very high ROI 15 minutes for me. I'll say, we'll have a 15-minute coaching conversation. At the end of it, I'll give him one new direction to go work on. Next call, it's implemented. That's rare.
And what's this guy's name again? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Dude, I can't believe I did that. I did the lazy rep thing or podcaster thing. Okay, that was great. Okay, last one that we have the skill gap problem. When we address it, obviously we buy pclub, but so you were saying like, let's go deep on, let's say, discovery we do it over X amount of time. How do we do this? So we get trained on it, create a methodology. We create a methodology for our business, train them, listen to their calls or practice, or like how would you recommend we go?
Well,
go deep.
I think the right way to do it is to introduce a skill transformation loop into how you transform your sales team, right? So in other words, is training a process or an event? Because most people treat it as an event, right? We're going to cram everybody into a Zoom room. We're going to teach them. It's an adrenaline shot to the arm. Everybody's hair is standing up by the end of it. And 3 weeks later, not only is nobody doing anything, they have no recollection of even being there. Okay, that's like typical sales training. A skill transformation loop is a multi-step process that you repeat. It starts with diagnosing the issue, training the reps, entering a practice environment, having the reps intentionally apply it in a real environment, reviewing it, reinforcing it, measuring the results, and then looping that in a never-ending way that leads to formidable sales excellence. And so that was kind of a complicated way of answering the question. The short way of answering the question is transitioning from sales training, which is an event, to skill transformation, which is a process. Event versus process.
But I hate to, this is not an advertisement for pclub, but do you diagnose, or do you train the sales leaders to diagnose on their own, or how should they do that?
Well, you don't need pclub to do it, right? You can do it yourself. We do it for companies at the start. We both have trained enablement practitioners who do it. One of the things we have coming down the pike is AI-based skill intelligence, where we connect to Gong and Nooks and Orem and Salesforce and use tons of data to be able to benchmark your sales organization against the skills that matter to you. So that's another way that we plan on delivering against it. But pclub just makes it really easy. You can do all of these things in-house if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. And then it's an infinite, like we're always, so even though, because we were talking about depth versus breadth, there are other areas. We're going to have to go train against all these areas that we dug in on. So like, we never leave the sort of the loop on our training for discovery or demo or, whatever it is.
And new skills crop up, right? Like if you taught your SDRs 3 years ago on how to do cold email copywriting before ChatGPT and AI were tools of the trade to do that well, they have a need for an updated skill set now. And I'm not saying how do we rely on ChatGPT to do our job or anything like that, but there is a new tool belt that people have. And so sales skills, some of them are timeless, some of them are evergreen, some of them move with the market though. And if you want to future-proof your organization, it does have to keep, you have to keep doing this on a continuous loop if you want to be the best.
Matt, do you want to be the best?
Usually.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't want to be the best at bad marketing, though.
I got to tell you, Chris, I asked you, every time I talk to you, I have you go through discovery and demo. Your general philosophy has remained the same. I do see you adjusting with the market. That's why I should have said at the start, hey, I'm going to ask you this again. But like, I one of the things I appreciate you is I get like where you're trying to get folks to. I know there's, as the market continues to evolve, you'll make, slight changes to the ways that they need to play it. But I always understand where you're trying to take things. And so that's why I love having you on the show. I like having you trying to expose people I know to the stuff that you're doing. So I really appreciate it. And it was awesome.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
What a great episode.
Yeah, it's always a good one with this guy. Speaking of other people at pclub, though, so we had Kristen on. Should we have her on again? Is there someone
Absolutely,
else?
Absolutely, you should. She's a star.
She was so prepared. I don't think she was ready for me. And my
who is?
zaniness. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll try the bloody eyeball play that you guys were talking about earlier. But she's so organized in her thoughts. Like I don't know if you train them on it or you screen for it. But
that's not me. That's all her.
Dude, her thought organization was like extraordinary.
It's amazing.
Like it was, just the way she thinks about things in like groups of 3 or 4 like bullets and like sequentially sort of delivering, what she's talking about. Amazing stuff. So, all right, we will have her on again because we are now reminded how good you guys are over there. So thanks again, bro. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.